Welcome everybody to this Valentine's edition of the Icebreakers Lookbook. I am joined by the gorgeous Alexandra Schauman today, and we have decided to go full on Valentine's. We are lovers in love.
Yes, you're looking gorgeous, Frankie. I'm so happy to be here tonight with you. Look at you. Hot.
So Alex and I always have a little bit of a discussion during the week of what theme we're going to go with. And obviously this week on Dancing on Ice, it wasn't really themed. So we thought, well, it's Valentine's Day. We couldn't miss the opportunity. I feel like this is a perfect example of what happens when a blonde versus a brunette go for exactly the same look. Because Alex, you look so cute, like a little cake over there. And I look like the vampire Valentine. I feel like if I turned up looking like this, David would run a mile.
I don't agree with you. I'll disagree. My first disagreement with you. You look great. I love the mask, everything. I just think it's a really fun theme because I kind of missed the theme this week on the show. So I love that we actually just created one, obviously, especially for Valentine's Day. But yeah, I kind of missed it this week, even though we had some stunning looks. And I love that we had, it was almost like a glitter fest. I got my good amount of sparkle just fest there. I just loved it so much. Glitter galore and sparkles and sequins.
Well, if you thought this week was glittery and sparkly and sequiny, I think you're going to be overwhelmed by 80s week next week. I think if we just add a bit of neon in there, we should have got the 80s covered. One of my favorite decades. So, well, I guess we should just get into it because you just seem so excited about these looks this week.
Yeah, let's just start because I actually love this first routine. Obviously, first up we had Antoinette skating to Living La Vida Loca, and this was colorful. This was, there was trumpets, there was sparkles. I think we actually talked about Anton last week, saying that we wonder he started off a bit not shy, but a little bit on the dark colors, not so much sparkles, and he's added them on every week, or the costume department and hair makeup has, but he's just gone from here to here, and I love it. And obviously Annette looked gorgeous too, but yeah, there's sparkle in that shirt. It's pink. Look at those pants. And he really seemed, we got to see this routine twice as well. So I think, especially the second time, really got to see that he got into the grooves and he was dancing away. And I really thought it was a great look for him, actually.
Well, I agree with you, but this is a big routine, as we talked about on the main podcast with Matt Evers, the Icebreakers podcast. Straight after the show last week, we talked about this, and obviously Anton and Antoinette, they were in the skate off this week. But I do feel that when you are wearing the bright colours, it is important that you step up your game a little bit. And oftentimes those bright colours can help you get into that frame of mind. You put on your costume and you transform into another person. And I'm not sure Anton felt that the first time around. And then compare that to his skate off when he just came out and was a bit freer with himself. I felt like that time the colours really came to life. It was almost like the costume was wearing him at first, and then the second time around he was wearing the costume.
Yeah. No, I agree on that. But I think I liked seeing him in these colors, and I really thought it was a great creative. It could be tricky. Like I said, I think both you and Matt mentioned it on the main podcast as well, that, we've done Ricky Martin before on the show. Obviously you and Chris Fountain skated to this piece, and it's a tricky one. It's very fast and you have to go full out. But I liked what they did with the creative too, that you didn't go with maybe a necessary Latino look and red. It was just really like a disco fest. Like, it was colorful. We had Andy and Sylvan on board with the trumpets. Like, it was like a what is that called in Rio? The
Carnival.
whole, yes, carnival feeling. That's what I loved about it. I feel like, isn't that this time of year as well? I've always wanted to go and see that because that's the vibes it was giving me.
So have I. I've always wanted to go and see Carnival. And I feel like you and I this week are perfectly dressed. And if you're listening at home and you're not watching, why aren't you watching, first of all? Because we're showing you all the costumes. But secondly, Alex and I are both wearing some fabulous lacy masks. We would be right at home in Carnival. We just need some food.
Yes, definitely. No, I think I'm excited. That's something I got to put on my bucket list for sure. And obviously Annette here looked gorgeous as well. She had the curls in her hair. She had a kind of an orangey lip, and I loved her eyes as well. Again, a really kind of poppy color there. It's like a mix of red and pink and orange as well. But it just made her, and her skin was dewy and glowy. And obviously the costume was, I love the fringe part, and it was kind of a two-piece, but it was just really, she looked stunning in it. So it was really, I think she really enjoyed wearing it too. It's one of those fun costumes.
Yeah, I mean, orange is one of my favorite colors, and a lot of people shy away from orange because they feel like it's too neon, it's too bright, it's too much of a statement. But honestly, I feel like orange and purple, again, another divisive color, but orange and purple are colors that most people can wear. And simply because I think orange and purple, both of them, they can be either red hued or they can be blue hued, meaning they can either be warm colors or cool colors, the same color, but just a different part of the spectrum. And I feel you don't get that with like yellow or with red or with green. I feel like they're either cool or they're warm, but I feel purple or orange can be either. Now she obviously was very hot in these colors, and like you said, with the orange on her face, her skin was really dewy. I thought her skin looked amazing this week. I don't know if she's had some kind of like extra moisturizer going on, but she look at that girl's
No, I
skin.
know. She was glowing. And again, I really think with her hair, I love the curls. I know she has had a few different haircuts, but I like hairstyles, but I love that they're keeping her length. I think she really suits that. Obviously, that's her natural color, a bit of this bob, but it's really suits her. So I thought it was so much fun. And um I am really happy to have seen that twice. Obviously, I was sad kind of with the results. I hate losing somebody, you always do at the point of the competition, but it was fun seeing that routine the second time around.
I agree. Well done, you guys, for making it through the skate off, and hopefully, we will see more color, more explosive creatives from you guys this week.
Yes, I'm excited. But moving on, which unfortunately we just talked about skate off, so kind of the other couple in the skate off was Chris and Robin, which I don't know. I didn't agree with this, but they looked stunning. Again, a completely different piece, a different creative, but obviously they skated to golden hour, and they were just lustrous. I mean, it was so much. It was like a glitter pants galore there, and sparkles everywhere, and just a golden light across. It was the screens behind them, everything just emoted this, and I really, really thought they looked just stunning. It was sublime. Like I really kind of stopped and just watched it all, and I think the look really went with that too. Even though literally, I think Chris was covered in glitter from head to toe.
I agree with you. I've never seen a creative like this. I don't know if it's because it was the black and gold, so you had the drama of the black and then the gold kind of highlighting all of that. He was dripping with glitter or sparkles. I'm not even sure. This looked like an absolute $1 million costume. And you're right. I'm glad we got to see this one again because actually, after having seen it the first time around, I thought, well, nobody's going to be able to beat that. Just on the creative alone, it drew you in. It was sumptuous. It was luxurious. I felt like we'd been transported to outer space, this kind of galaxy of
Yeah.
sparkles and like you said, sequins. It was absolutely extravagant. And I don't think really these pictures that we have here, I don't think they really give you the full extent of that. Like the cameras just caught a very different. Oh, sorry, I'm not doing very
Yeah.
well today. But the
No,
cameras
I
just
know. I was trying to find a close up of his pants because I mean, if Chris is if she's watching, or Robin can, maybe I can ask Robin. But those pants must have been heavy as well because the amount of stones on them. But Robin looked stunning here. I love the high slick pony on her, and again, it was a beautiful costume that really had, yeah, sparkles everywhere, and then her eye makeup was really just suited her so well. Quite a dark eye, but then it had a lot of sparkles in it as well, and like this golden dew as well. So she looked stunning.
I'm not sure what the girls have done this week with their
I
skin.
know
I
they
mean,
all look amazing.
yeah, and we know that Robin has beautiful skin anyway. I mean, she's 50 almost, or close to 50. She's close to my age for sure. And gosh, she looks like not a day over 30 there. Look at her. She looks
I know.
incredible.
I know. It's just
Absolutely
incredible.
stunning.
And yeah, and she suits a lot of looks. I love her features. She can really pull off a lot of looks. But I love this look, especially on her with that tight, slick pony, and just really beautiful makeup that really highlights her features. Like it's almost a bit of a new, like strong eyes, but then like a nudier lip and just like a yeah, this dewiness again. It's hats off to the hair and makeup team, but especially the makeup team, whatever they're using in that foundation, or if it's like a highlighter or something they put on, it's really, really, really gorgeous.
Yeah, now that ponytail was extraordinarily long, and I don't know why, but in this picture, somebody's holding onto the back of her ponytail, which is quite weird. I don't know. Are they trying to give her a haircut? Are they trying to like get a bit of extra speed to catapult them onto the eyes? I'm not sure, but they're holding onto the back of a ponytail. Okay, we won't ask about that. Maybe it's Andy and he's like trying to drag her back. I'm not sure. But I've never seen her with such long hair. And if you are a skater or if you've done any kind of dance or sport really, you'll know that wearing a hairpiece can really affect your balance, and particularly in skating where we do a lot of spinning. And when you spin, that weight on the back of your head can actually pull out and just affect the way that you would normally do a spin. It can change actually quite a lot, especially if you're spinning by yourself. Obviously, she was spinning with Chris. So I think it was a great look on her, and obviously quite brave as well, because also as a ice dancer or pair skater, when you sort of do some work on the floor, you always run the risk of your partner running over your hair and you end up with a bob, right?
Yeah, you end up with a haircut. I think it's happened on the show. It's happened on the show. Maybe that's why they were holding it and kind of going. She's maybe told them like you need to go to this level, even though I think it was Chris who did that slide. So obviously when you do some sort of slides and stuff, which we'll see in some couples moving forward, but if you go lower down to the ice, that's when I really feel like it's a risk with let's say a longer skirt or a longer ponytail, like you said, you might end up with a chop. Yes, gorgeous pictures here of a close up of her eye makeup. I just think this is again really stunning. She can pull off that really cat eye, like a darker corner, but then the gold and the shimmer on top of the eyelid really makes the eye still pop, and it's just yeah, stunning.
Now, a beautiful choice of colours here, because obviously Robin's got very deep, dark brown eyes, but I feel that they use this bronze to full effect. So they've used like a dark bronze, and it almost echoes the colour of her eyebrows that they've chosen to paint her eyebrows. But then obviously it's got a metallic sheen to it. So she's got the dark bronzy brown eyebrows, and then this dark bronzy brown just on her lid. So in the corner of her eye, in the inner corner of her eye, they've gone with black, and on the outer corner of her eye, they've also gone with black. But then they've just highlighted the top of her eyelid with this bronzy brown shimmer, and it really has brought out the color of her eye. And then they've kind of used it again underneath her bottom lashes,
Yeah.
just on the outer corner, just to open up that eye a little bit there too.
Yeah, no, I think the team are so I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. They're very, very, very skilled. They're just amazing. You feel like you sit down and it's just I actually do miss sitting in their chair because you sit there early and you're there for quite a few hours, but it's worth it, let me tell you. You just walk away feeling like $1 million
Well, she
or
certainly
pounds.
looked like a million dollars, and that entire creative was $1 billion creative. So we were very sad to see Robin and Chris go, but I'm glad at least that they went out on a high, because that was beautiful.
It was really, really, really stunning. And they've done really these great. So we go from the first routine, which is Ricky Martin Carnival, to this gold. And moving on, we had a completely different creative again with Molly and Colin. We went into cheerleader world. They skated to Hot to Go. And yeah, that was a completely different creative again. They had a big set piece that they started on. And obviously they were really trying to, well, be cheerleaders on ice. And you had Colin really looking, again, it was kind of cool. I know they kind of missed that because it was Super Bowl on the Sunday as well, and he was obviously dressed as a footballer, American, I should say, footballer, not soccer. But what did you think of this? Did you like this creative? Did you like the number? Did you like the look and trying to do? We kind of we have done cheerleading on ice before. I can see you
Yeah,
crinkling.
yeah. I'm putting my nose underneath my mask. I when they first came out, and I was like, "Whoa, super bright and super fun, and of course Super Bowl." So I'm like, "We've got all the supers covered," and I
Yeah.
actually thought she did a very good job. I thought Colin was less kind of, I don't know. I hope he was okay this week, because I felt like I don't know, he popped a lift and maybe he injured himself. I'm not sure, but I felt like the yellow was a little bit bland on him. I wanted him to be a little bit brighter as well to match her, and obviously thought she came out like a bullet from a gun. I mean, she was just shot out of a cannon. She was so fast and so attacking this week, and so, I mean, aggressive, but in a great way. She was just full of spirit, I thought. And I did. I'm being negative, I think, and I don't really mean to be, because I did think it was a very beautiful creative, and I did think it was a really fun creative. What they did with her hair here, we can see, you
Yeah, I
know,
was gonna comment on those. I really liked again the detailing here. I really liked her. Obviously, she had extra pros with her as well. We saw Vicky and Tippy there, which was really nice to see, and they had their pom-poms, and it was very pink and glittery. And I love the girls, so Vicky and Tippy in their outfits as well. They were slightly different. We don't have a picture, so I shouldn't talk about it too much. But I love Molly's outfit too, of course, with the big M on top. But I really like this pinky, like with the longer sleeves and the kind of poofier skirt. And again, I really think she suited it, and she looked well. She's that young. She could be a cheerleader. She could be in high school. Let's face it, she looks that age. But she pulled it off. But there was something, I don't know. Again, maybe not the screens, not the big set. It was, I don't know. It started off really, like you said, the first 10, 20, 30 seconds were just like wow. And then again, just feel like it didn't really, it's got probably a high energy piece to hold up to, you gotta, it's hard to be like giving that much energy from beginning to end, and it didn't really have a breather even in the song or in the choreography or in the creative.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because they did look the part, and obviously they'd been to the cheerleading class and they'd had a bit of cheerleading, tips or whatever, and they did really look the part. I'm not sure what it was about this routine this week, but it didn't quite hit the mark for me. And like you said, maybe it was the creatives, or I'm not sure. There was a huge set piece on the stage as well, which we didn't really utilize enough, I don't
No.
think. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. I wish I could be more positive. I want to be more positive, but she ended up bottom of the leaderboard. So it's obviously it's not just me. There was a feeling this week, I think, about this routine that it just sort of missed the mark, maybe. And I was surprised
Yeah.
because she's such a good skater. Like, why was she at the bottom?
No, I love Molly and Colin. I think they have so fun energy, and she looks great and everything. She's done lots of different looks throughout the weeks as well. But here, especially with all like the two braids, so the two like braids into ponytails, and then these bows, pink bows in it. It's quite like girly and Barbie like, but really, again, it suited her. And obviously, she had a purple eye as well, which again I thought was really pretty on her.
Well, I mean, don't get me started with the purple because, as I've already said, I think it suits everybody. There's a shade of purple for everybody, and we shouldn't be shy about using purple. But she's got such pretty features anyway. And I mean, she's blonde and she's fair. She's like you. She's got this just gorgeous kind of fairy tale skin and fairy tale look to her. I mean, she had yeah, like you said, she had a purple eye. She had a very peachy cheek and a very peachy lip. Now, a lot of people would think, oh, if you're going with purple, perhaps you should have a pink lip and a pink cheek. But purple and orange actually a great combo. And I think that's really well illustrated here. Now, on the eye, she hasn't just got purple, she has got pink as well. And she's got obviously like a dark liner. But I think that contrasts perfectly, if I can just zoom in there,
Yeah.
with the peachy lip and the peachy cheek.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, she looks, and again, her skin just looks perfect and dewy. And if it's the highlighter they use, maybe they're all sharing the same one, all the makeup artists. But it's really, I think all the girls have just so look gorgeous, especially this week.
A little bit
So
of
yeah, it was a bit of a shame for them not to get. I think they looked a bit disappointed too, and it's not a fun thing to stand there in front of the judges and not maybe feel like you've done your best routine that you could have done. Maybe it's gone great in practice. So I hope they come back stronger with something really fun and fabulous for 80s week.
Well, speaking of stronger, hello.
Yes, obviously next we had Michaela and Mark, and they were skating to Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. And I think what I loved about this creative, they gone kind of into the futuristic, almost like, were we on the moon? I was trying to watch the back screens, and they're obviously their costumes as well, but both of them in these kind of like one pieces. But I don't know if they were supposed to be moon suits. What did you think? Did you have any?
I It was super metallic dynamic. That's all I can describe it as, super metallic dynamic. You're right, actually. It did feel quite space age or quite sci-fi or sort of a bit, maybe it was a bit more avant-garde, perhaps. Almost like you feel like could have been a French kind of choreographer that had come up with this concept, because it did feel quite sort of European in its concept, especially for
Yeah,
something like Chasing Cars. It's obviously there's a very obvious theme that you could have gone with there, and I'm glad that they didn't.
yeah.
And I think Chris mentioned he thought it should have been much more romantic, and I completely disagreed with that. I thought the way that they pulled this dynamism together, because this almost feels, I mean, very masculine, this look. I mean, she's had lots of very soft and girly pretty looks, but this feels a very masculine look, quite
I love
different
that
to
we're zooming in
the
on Mark Henrity's bottom here. In
posterior.
lack of better words, you really. I'm having a
Very
good zoom. I mean, I did the pictures, but it's right there on my screen. But yeah, lovely, lovely button, but lovely. I like that they were matching too. When you put a girl in kind of this well, it's a not a cat suit because it wasn't tight all the way down, but like a pantsuit. It can be a bit dangerous because it highlights more things sometimes. It might be better off in a skirt with tights, but it does give this unison look. And again, because they are so synchronized and moving as one, I know there was a few hiccups, but anyways, in general, they're always so in sync. I thought it was really, really fun. And also that this material was quite, like I said, it had this sheer. It was quite, maybe that's what made me think of like a space suit.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it does look like it came straight from the moon, or from
From the
from,
moon.
yeah, one of the space stations, definitely. Um, what was interesting is they had these little, like you said, these gold highlights, and they've got this bronze look, or this bronze stripe that goes around them like a sash, and it almost reminded
Yeah.
me of Well, I always wondered if it was a bit of an Easter egg because they're doing so well. I mean, they didn't end up top of the leaderboard this week, which I was quite shocked about, if I'm honest. But I think, we'll get into the whole reasoning for that later on, maybe. But I definitely think that this was for me, it was the strongest everything on the night, the strongest creative, the strongest looks, the strongest storytelling, the strongest choreography. It was maybe a little bit dark. Now, when we talk about the background and the screens,
I
perhaps it was
agree.
dark with the dark costumes. Perhaps they needed a bit more contrast there. That green could have been brighter, maybe, and perhaps that's what didn't
Or maybe
quite.
just a few more spotlights on them either. You know, I can think sometimes this that helps. I don't mind. I didn't mind the costume that went with the look. I think the screens for me, I was trying to watch. I couldn't take my eyes off them, so I wasn't really watching the screens. But I feel like it was a bit of that's what maybe made me think of being on the moon. But it was very dark. The screens were dark, and then they didn't have too much lights like on the ice either, which all of it would end up a bit, like you said, a bit too dark, which is a shame because you want to see all the detailing that was in that routine because it was jam packed, and I don't even think I could have done half of that choreography. So it was it was very difficult.
Yeah, it was very difficult, and I think perhaps that was what brought the mood down. And instead of celebrating the skating, which we should have done, and celebrating what a fantastic routine it was, like it was an iconic routine, I'd say.
Yes.
Perhaps the lighting or the creative behind it just made us feel a little bit like it was a bit more intimate. We didn't quite get that poof, that wow factor that we had with maybe Anton or maybe Molly, that sort of
Yeah.
all singing, all dancing, jazz hands. It was definitely not that. And again, it wasn't the romance either. And perhaps it's difficult for people at home to understand that dynamism and this kind of dramatic theme can also be very powerful.
Yeah. And I missed Michaela's, well, there it is. I was gonna say I missed her smile in the routine. Obviously, it wasn't a smiling routine, so she didn't do anything wrong. I love her smile. So I think that's something as well that obviously she wasn't meant to smile in the routine, and I think that went with it. But I just love her. She just her whole face lights up when she smiles. And obviously here she had the very like a high bun, and again, really, really bright blue makeup, which I thought was a bit interesting because they could have picked kind of any color from the costume as well. But I think again, it maybe just made it pop so she didn't look overall too dark. And almost she had like a very pale lip as well. But again, I think she can't do anything to not look the part, and she always pulls every look off that they give her because they've given her quite a few different looks. If you go from Sound of Music to like she's done that kind of carnival feel as well when she skated to Shakira, and obviously this completely different look again.
Yeah, I mean, this blue again gives it a whole space age kind of sci-fi look. She's a little bit Barbarella, a little bit Jane Fonda in this as well.
Yeah. Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, and especially in the space suit or the all-in-one, obviously it's given me strong Barbarella vibes, but I think it's very bold to go with one color on your eyelid. To just go with blue is a strong choice, and it's not for everybody. It is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, I think we'll see a lot more of this next week in 80s week with any luck, fingers crossed. But it's a really bold choice. Now, I say it's one color. Of course, there's highlights and there's lowlights, and they've put a little bit of silver in there. I don't know if you can see towards the
Yes,
outer
I can
edge
see the silver
here
shimmer, and obviously the crease is darker too.
and in the
Um,
corner.
yeah,
But really, that's you're looking at that and you're going, "Whoa, blue eyeshadow." That's basically all you're seeing. But doesn't she look fantastic?
she does. She does. That's what I'm saying. Again, oh, talk about that skin and stuff. Obviously, she's just a beautiful woman, but she does look so much younger than she is. I mean, again, it's just I take my hat off. I'm so in awe of her skating skill, of her like how she pulls everything off, everything that's thrown at her, and skating is not easy to pick up. And then also, I think she's loving it, obviously, with all this, all the costuming and glitz and glamour, and she's taken it on board. But I feel like she's a born performer. I'm like, did she not go to stage school? She looks like she's always been on stage.
Yeah, she started off as a dancer in musicals and things like that. So she was stage trained to
Okay,
start
she's
with the
okay.
dance
Yeah, yeah.
train. You can tell, obviously, but I think that was a long time ago. She's been a TV presenter for a long time. I think what you can see with Michaela is she's just so inherently strong. Like her body is so strong, and often we see with older people, not women or men, but older people in general, that they don't have much connection to the ends of their arms and legs. It's kind of they tend to just kind of hang there, or they'll lift from the hip or they'll lift from the shoulder, but maybe not finish the movement off. And I think with her, you just get this absolutely diva performance right to the end of her fingertips and toes.
Yes. I loved it, and her core is so strong. Some of those moves were just Amazing. I did get don't have a picture of it, but I think the last move that they did in the routine, she went not one of the last ones. She went down, she kind of slid down Mark's legs, and she was like, in this back teapot. And there I was a bit worried because it was a bit longer. I think she had with the one piece, she had a one fabric piece that was kind of like a half skirt or something draped across, and it got really close. Again, this is me. I think I'm just worried about all sorts of like long ponytails, this and that. I'm a safety girl. But I just got a bit worried. But obviously, not any problems at all. And it is fun to see things move as well. So I do appreciate that they put it there from costumes.
I think that's because you and I have both had many, 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 experiences of costume dramas when things go wrong, and also even just her sliding down his legs like that. If his belt isn't tight enough, or if his trousers aren't attached, hi, Mark, for everyone to see. They would have been on the moon. It would have been his moon that would have been exposed. So, I mean, all of these things have to be taken into consideration, and particularly as you spoke about she's in an all-in-one, but it wasn't really a catsuit because it had it had a little skirt on it, or kind of a little piece of fabric which can get in your way. I mean, we've all had costume dramas with things like that, and also we've also had dramas with the flared leg. Now, we've spoken about this in the past,
Yes.
with the legs that aren't attached and are kind of flapping about.
Yes, I know. I think there was a
Yeah.
few of those. There was a lot of not pant issues. I don't want to say that because I know actually, obviously, I loved yours and Matt Evers' main podcast, Icebreakers, the way you discuss the show. And you also have, of course, your bonus episode out with Layla and Lewis. But Matt wanted us to kind of discuss pants in general. So I think obviously there's a lot of different pants, like you said. They could be for girls, two flared legs, they could be catsuits, they could be this, boot covers, things that get in the way. But the men's pants is, yeah, it's tricky sometimes. Obviously with skating, same with dancing, you need them to move. So not only do they need to look good and look the part, they need to be skatable. You need to be able to bend really low without, the crutch breaking, and you need to be able to, and I think sometimes what happens is, obviously with the guys, the pants tend to lift a little bit and they can get hooked on the hooks of the skates, and then they look a bit short. And
I
maybe they
think
do
Matt
have to be a
alluded.
bit longer as well. I think that was what Matt was on about. Perhaps need to be a bit well, they need to be a bit longer because obviously you're in a skate, so that's extra height as well. You're not just in a shoe. So technically the pants should go a bit, past, not past your heel, but to your heel of your skating boot.
Yeah, I don't really like to see. I think it's quite the fashion right now. I don't really like to see the shorter trouser in a skating scenario, because it does, like you said, once you put the boot on and the boot's got the heel, it can end up really just grazing the top of the ankle, and then it can get stuck in the boot, and it's really unseemly. I know there's two kinds of skating costumes for men, and we hardly ever really speak about the men, so it's good that we're taking this
No, it's
opportunity.
true. Let's give him
Um,
some love.
yeah, but if we look here, I've zoomed in on Mark's foot there, and as you can see, that is barely skimming the top of his boot, and he's
Yeah.
bending, obviously. And this is the problem you can get into if the trousers aren't long enough. That the minute the boy bends down, and let's face it, we're always bending, we're ice skaters, so we spend the entire time bending down, is that fabric can get pulled up, and then it can end up just sticking in the top of your blade, because the top of your boot, because the boots are so
Yeah.
wide. And also I think it doesn't do very much for the leg line, especially with the celebrity boys. They don't know how to point their feet, they don't know how to finish their leg line. They need all the help they can get. And we have two kinds of trousers in skating. We have trousers like this that Mark's wearing, that I'll pull up for you in a second, but we also have like the elasticated trousers, which is more like we would see on Lila and Lewis, for example, competitive skating. And these
Yeah.
kind of trousers, they can be a little bit problematic sometimes, can't they?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think maybe one of the reasons they're a bit short as well, of course, it could be a preference thing. So obviously, if it's a preference thing, if it's something that's been highlighted or it's an issue, if they were too long, obviously, don't mind us. But I think maybe also the boys are going in for their fittings without the boots. And obviously, if they go in like trainers or even just in their socks, obviously the pants are going to be long enough. It's going to look long enough. And what happens then? You put your boot on. So what would be good, I think, here sometimes is to use the stirrups, something to hold the pant down. Obviously, not too tight because you want to have the stretch. If the fabric is not as stretchy, you want to have a bit of that length so you can move. But I would prefer a longer leg line. I just think it's nicer. It gets a bit, and also again, if you do any jumps or anything where you lift your leg, you might even see like a sock or half a calf, or again,
No.
nothing against that, but sometimes
Absolutely not. We never ever want to see a sock or half a calf. Definitely not. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this in the past, and we've spoken about stirrups. And for people at home who don't know, a stirrup is basically if this is your trouser leg, like this. You would sew a piece of elastic on one side and a piece of elastic on the inside. So on the outside edge and the inside edge, just a thin piece of elastic. And then they have hooks on the bottom and you can hook them together, or sometimes they hook all the way around, they go all the way under the boot. And it just keeps the pants pulling down. Or if they do ride up because it's elasticated, it just pulls them back down to where they're supposed to be once you finish that maneuver, and it makes it less obvious. So I think perhaps stirrups might be the way forwards for some of these looks. Because I think we didn't mention it, but Chris, he also had very short pants, didn't he? I mean, he's a tall guy.
Yeah, and actually, if we further
Was he?
down skating as well, there was a few of them on Sunday's show that had a bit short pants. But
Was
again,
expecting a foot?
maybe they were trying, since Sir Steve is not on the show anymore. They were trying to get up to that really short thing and showing a bit of legs, which I'm all here for. But obviously, when it's like that kind of, I think it's called a high water pant. That's really in style now, like you mentioned. I just don't think for me, it's not the look on the ice, when you're in a boot as well. You kind of want to hide, just like girls do with their fishnets. I love that they, again, different from competition, but in shows, we tend to have our fishnets or tights go down over the boot to elongate the leg line. But maybe the guys just don't want to have, maybe they're worried about or doing up the stirrup as well, which again, boys can be, not all of them, but a little bit lazy. Obviously, the girls have a lot. We have the fishnets to hook up. Those hooks are really small. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Frankie. Underneath the boot, when you do your fishnets hook up, they can be tricky, but I mean, we have to do that. And actually, a lot of the girls, I know for a fact on the show, they get stitched into their costumes as well to make sure that they stay in place. So, which of course the boys maybe don't have to do as much because they don't always have as complicated dresses. But just to be sure, when you have a strap or whatever, just not to have any wardrobe malfunctions, there is a bit of stitching going on, which is, for me, when I like to go to the bathroom when it's just 2 minutes before the show, not great if you're in a stitched up costume.
I mean, for women though, that always needs to be an option. I don't like. I don't think I like the sound of stitching people into costumes. Maybe not. Wouldn't be for me. Definitely, I'd be like, no, 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 no. I remember one time I was in the bathroom with Sarah Green, who was she's a legendary British TV presenter. She's a lot of children's TV back in the day, and she was a competitor. I don't know, it might have been 2007, 2008. And I just was literally so stuck in my costume. There's so many hooks inside the costume because sometimes inside your costume they will place hooks so that you can hook your tights into them, so your tights don't fall down, so there's no gap between your tights and your knickers and your skirt, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of mechanics under there, and I'd gotten myself so twisted up and I had to come out. I was like basically naked from the waist up, and I was going, Sarah, please help me. And I was so embarrassed, but I mean, bless her, she was such a trooper. She was, of course I will. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I like the sound of being stitched in. That would never
I think it could be it's a TV thing maybe too, just to make sure that you don't have any big costume malfunctions when it's live on telly. But yeah, that's a little bit of a secret, maybe behind the scenes secret as well. Just to make sure, same when it's even just a bow tie, something that you just don't want moving too much. There might be a little bit of fastening if it's not stitching, but making sure that it stays in place. So again, some tricks of the trades.
Well,
But
speaking of stitching, we
yes.
have to talk about the next couple because we need to go hello hairpiece.
Yes, I mean, next we had Charlie and Brendan because obviously Eric was injured and had a week off. So we saw Brendan back on the ice, which I loved seeing. And oh my God, I love seeing
Yay!
Charlie. Yay! They skated to Common People by Pulp, and I thought this was a great piece for them. Like, it was the 90s, it was really fun and poppy. It was they had fireworks in the end. It was a really fun creative. I mean, they started off in a shop. I think they were filling a shopping trolley, and then it went a bit a bit something, but I still loved it. I was there for it. And then it was fireworks in the end, so I thought it was one of those creatives that just had, they throw everything at it. And again, the costume with the camouflage, so but again, this was one of the things I didn't really maybe necessarily understand it, but I loved it.
I think you could say that about this entire last week's show. Like, I didn't really understand it. There was no theming, but we were here
Confused.
for it. Yeah, we were confused. You're right. I mean, she's got pink camo trousers on, and then Brendan has got black camo trousers on, which is very 90s. We're getting sort of like boy band slash Spice Girls type feel to it. Then she's got the black kind of bra showing and the bustier
Yeah,
going on. It was cool. It was just, yeah, like you said, it was a little bit confused. It was a bit all over the place. I guess, was the 90s like that? I feel like the 90s was very
maybe the
stylish.
90s. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't remember, but maybe it was a bit all over the place. And like I said, I love the screens. It's so amazing, the screens in this new studio that we obviously didn't have before the revamp in the old studios, but they can just display so many things on these screens. I mean, it's a huge LED light screen with, I don't even want to mention how many, I'm probably going to say millions, but at least thousands of lights. And it's just, they can do, I mean, any color. They can put, we'll talk about it later, but they can put flowers up there and animals up there and anything. And this was really fun because they started off and they were in like a supermarket and they were filling their shopping trolley and everything. But then, yeah, common people, I guess maybe that was it. Common people, what do? You go shopping, you go out in your camouflage pants, you have a bit of disco, and then I don't know. I'm
And then
trying to
fireworks,
find, and
fireworks to
fireworks
finish.
weekend. But it's the weekend. I don't know.
But I'm
But
a
I
big
really, really, really liked it. And what I loved is Charlie really came alive. I mean, I think she really enjoyed this tune because she just, they were out. I was loving, they were doing a bit of this as well, both of them. She was skating so much on her own. And she just really, maybe it was the creatives. Again, I think sometimes a creative can really, make a number so much better, or sometimes it can have the opposite effect, of course. But this was a really fun week. I enjoyed it.
It was probably the music as well. I mean, she's probably just a big fan of that era of the 90s. I think we all, if you were around in that time, if you were a teenager or a young adult in that time, it was a really fun time to be alive. There was raving happening everywhere and, clubbing. Everybody was clubbing, clubbing, clubbing. That's all we did. We just went out clubbing. I don't know. We didn't eat or drink. We just went out clubbing. So I think she really epitomized that kind of feel and that kind of celebratory tone from the 90s. Wanted to talk about her hair pieces, though.
Mhm.
Oh my holy extensions, Batman. Look at these.
I know. And again, I love what with Charlie, again, we've seen so many different looks. So again, I have to say, the creative team and obviously hair and makeup, Marcus is just amazing at like not only giving the whole show a different look, but every person gets a different look from week to week as well. And Charlie here really, she suits this as well. She suited the ghost short hairpiece being Demi Moore, but this is really fun and funky as well with like there's braids in there and there's lots of things going on. And then it's a really obviously straightened hair as well. And yeah, look at her.
She looks like
um,
Baby Spice here. She looks like
she
Baby
does
Spice.
look like Baby Spice. Maybe that's the, yeah, she really, that's kind of, yeah, she does totally.
She looks like
But
Baby Spice that just stepped off the Spice Girls tour bus. I mean, she's got everything. She's got the mesh, she's got the camo, she's got the hair extension, she's got the bustier, she's got a bit of neon in there, a little bit of neon pink. I don't know, it was just like a 90s explosion. Boom.
yeah, it was a 90s explosion, but I did enjoy it. And she looked like she was enjoying it too, because she was just smiling and beaming throughout the whole routine.
Now, I have to say, I don't know the size difference exactly between Brendan and Eric, but Brendan's pants fitted in perfectly. So they were on the longer side. So if you just stepped straight into Eric's pants and they were fitted for Eric, but they fitted great. So.
No, again, we have to, obviously, the past few weeks has thrown a few last minute changes for everybody involved. But again, for costumes, it's, Vicky and all her team backstage, they're amazing to like just, oh, suddenly we're not, clothing this person, it's this person, and making all those changes and still making people look great. Because obviously, like you said, they would have planned this look and had fittings for it. So again, kudos for making those things comfortable and happening last minute as well.
Bonkers.
Bonkers.
Speaking of bonkers, right, hello.
Hello. Here next we had Sam and Molly, and they skated To Die with a Smile, which was obviously by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. And again, I really did enjoy the screens. I love that they kind of had a different piece again. It was lyrical. It was Molly looked gorgeous. Again, I love the pink hair. Love it, love it, love it. And it was highlighted in the costume and almost through the tulips on the screen as well. But and she looked really, really pretty in that dress and everything. But again, it was a little bit not a strange, I shouldn't say a strange a creative. But I don't know, what do you think? What I'm trying to say here?
Well, I'm nodding along as you're trying to find the right words because there aren't really the right words for it. Die with a smile on, first and foremost, is a very interesting creative to give somebody when you show up to work on a Monday morning and they go, hey, you're going to be skating to die with a smile on. So you're like, well, where am I going to go with this? It's kind of like when they give you Queen, Who Wants to Live Forever. These are just moments in time when you're like, well, I'm just going to have to go with it and see what we can pull out of thin air. The flowers in the background on the screen, I mean, absolutely stunning as a picture, but didn't really understand why they were in the creative. It gave me Wizard of Oz vibes because just felt like they were tiptoeing through the tulips. I was expecting the poppies to explode and they were just going to fall asleep. Was that why? Because it was Die with a Smile on Your Face? I'm not sure. the purple, she had this beautiful pink hair, and I'm a big fan of purple, as we know. But then
Yes.
the purple I thought was very dull, kind of dark purple. It wasn't particularly, it didn't really match the screens behind, which was very floral and green. Also, he was in very dark trousers and a dark, and a floral shirt, which wasn't really doing much for me either way. I think the best thing I can say about this is her hair looked amazing, and he's a fantastic skater. And then I think that's
Yeah,
about all I've got for
I'm
you.
really rooting for these guys, and I feel like, obviously, feel like we need to see something along the line with like when they did Jungle Book. I know those were like big characters. So I don't mean that they can't be themselves in look wise, but something like that where it really wows me. Again, it was they skated beautifully this piece. I'm not faulting it in any means, so it's not that, but I just feel like it was a bit. I just wanted a bit more. I don't know exactly to put my finger on what it was, but just not flowers in a meadow field. And it was beautiful that he gave her the flower in the end, and they were trying to, skate to this romantic piece. But it was just, yeah,
But
maybe
then
not.
I don't really get it. Like, why were there flowers when you're dying with a smile on? I don't know why am I, why am I in a flower
Confused.
field?
I think this is, I mean, they need a theme. Obviously, we came here with a theme, but thankfully, there's a theme back next week. Maybe that's what they need to just make sure that everybody has creatives that we can understand as well. I'm sure that's the whole thing. I know how the creative team works. Again, super talented people spend so much time looking at everything from music to, and they draw it all out. And if there's a prop, then there's so many details involved. But again, if as a viewer, it's not clear to you, it's a bit of a lost cause, if you don't really, do you know what I mean? Because what, did he die in the end? I hope not. I want them now. Obviously they're back next week, but it was a bit of a, I just thought it was a bit of a strange creative.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really. There was no continuous thread that you could say this is the story, start, middle, and end. And we always kind of want that. And if we don't get that, like with Chasing Cars that we had with Mark and Michaela, we didn't. There wasn't a story there, but it was just dynamic and it was powerful. So if you don't have that as your creative, then you need to tell a story. And I think we spoke about this with Lila and Lewis on the bonus episode of the Icebreakers podcast this week. Lila and Lewis obviously are the European ice dance champions, and some ice dancers like Jane and Chris are exquisite at telling stories. I mean, they just draw you in, and there is a start, there is a middle, there's an end. It's an obvious, either it's romantic or it's dramatic. It can be any number of things. We saw Jane and Chris do Barnum and Bailey. They were telling us the story of a circus. We saw them do Mac and Mabel. They were telling us the story of silent movies. These are great stories that you can just understand. Bolero, fantastic, beautiful, dramatic romantic piece or melodramatic piece. But if you don't have that, and of course this is not necessarily anything to do with the skaters, but if the creative doesn't really give you a story, then you have to go all out banging. And we spoke about this with Lila and Lewis, because they actually don't go for storytelling. And what makes them so successful is they party on the ice, and they bring all the audience to party with them. They've got very strong musical choices, very high energy pieces, mashups that the audience can get along with and enjoy the choreography. And I think this was neither of those things. It was neither storytelling nor was it a banging piece that you could enjoy like Anton and Antoinette. At least the music was great and kind of got you in the mood, so it's got to be one or the other, and this kind of missed the mark for me on all levels. And even, I would say, even with the costuming, I think it was just a little bit bland, maybe.
It was a little bit bland. Again, I do, again, it's not, I'm not faulting, they look beautiful, both of them. And well, even Sam, I love him. His skating is sublime. I think he's my, yeah, I really want
Amazing.
them to do well, this couple. I'm so much rooting for them. And again, he just needs to do, like, his knee bend is sublime and his skating. But again, pants were too short. Like the costume, again, it's not. I don't feel like it's helping him out. I feel like again, this is what I'm saying, where it could be, a creative is really important for you. Yes, it's a bit a bit of a short pant there. But again, it's I don't know. Next week, hopefully, I have high hopes for 80s weeks. I have high hopes, so I really hope they get a popping tune and a really really fun creative as well.
Now, we can see here on Sam's skate that there's a little bit of gaffer tape there. Now, a lot of people will be asking, why does he have to tape his skates together? Are they broken? And that's not always the case. Some people do tape their skates. They'll put gaffer tape around their skates. Every time they skate, you have to cut yourself out of it and then retape it every time. And some people would do that because they like the extra support around the ankle. And it could be the case with Sam, because he's an exquisite skater, and you can tell he's spent a lot of time working on that knee bend, working on that ankle bend, and it could be that his skates aren't quite as supportive as they were when he first started. It could also be that he wants to keep his laces in check. Now, some people will tape their laces down. Now, with the girls, obviously, we tend to tuck our laces in between our boot and the tongue of our boots, and then we will go to great lengths to make sure that those laces don't come out. We'll tuck them all the way around the corners, and sometimes we put them in uncomfortable places and they give us blisters. And then we put our tights, our fishnet tights, over the top of them, as Alexandra was saying. You put your tights over top and you hook them underneath. No possibility of the laces escaping, or very slim possibility of the laces escaping. But with the boys, and especially with these short pants that seem to be in fashion at the moment, those laces can be flopping around all over the place. So it could be that he's done that to keep his laces in check, or it could be that he's doing it because he needs a little bit more support. And these,
Yeah.
for the celebrities, they give them beginner skates, so they're not super supportive. And sometimes when they're really good skaters, they might need something a bit extra.
Yeah, I was wondering about this too, and I think he's in a different boot. Again, we're not going to get too technical, but he's in a different boot I can see than they give the other skater, or they have a standard boot that they a brand of boot that they give to most of the celebrities, but he's in a different boot. So I wonder if he's just had maybe some foot issues, or like you said, he needs the more support, and therefore he tapes them. But I do like that it's a clean look. I don't necessarily mind it, and again, if the pant was longer or if there was stirrups, I wouldn't see this, and I think it's actually great because then he doesn't have to worry about the laces coming undone, or even something hooking on the hooks. I like to tape my hooks under the fishnets as well, because I don't know about you, but I've hooked myself on my hooks.
I,
The sentence
well,
about
I
the safety times, but I've done that several times, so I like to tape them down just so there's no. And obviously Sam gets the same effect here with having the gaff on them, that he doesn't have to worry about the hooks like hooking on Molly's fishnets, or I don't know why his foot would be, but just
I've gone
again.
one step further. So I've gone one step further and had my hooks removed, so I don't even have hooks. So yeah, this is a real
That's
thing,
true, yeah.
people. This is a real thing. Hooks on skates, particularly if you're pair skating or ice dancing, can be quite dangerous. They can be quite unpredictable. You never know when you're going to get hooked on something. So I've even had mine removed.
Yes.
Right,
Right.
let's move on to the grand finale.
Yes, I feel, and again, this creative was marvelous. Of course, skating last, we had Dan and Vanessa, James Amaros here, and they had for me a banging creative, I should say, or hot creative, because it was fire everywhere. It was, they skated to Lionheart, and like I said, even in the end, when they were going in for the headbanger, there was a lion literally on screen, or maybe several even. But it was just for me, again, this is where I love that the creative is and everything on the screen, everything is, it's essential, it makes sense, it helps the storytelling, it helps the choreography. I mean, look at them there. They had great, colors again. It was the fire colors, the bright, I mean, Vanessa's skirt looked like flames, the way it was draped with all the different layers and stuff. And again, I thought this was just spot on. And again, just a perfect example of what I like to see in a creative.
What's interesting about this creative, I'm going to point this out right now, is that obviously, as we can see on the LED in the background, they have the flames. These are a smoking hot couple. We know they're going to do the headbanger, so it's an exciting routine. But then they've mirrored those colors on the ice. So you've got the orange and the yellow lighting on the ice as well. So it almost makes the LED bleed like an ombre from the LED screen onto the ice, and it makes it almost seamless. And there they are, just smoking in this cauldron of hot fire. I mean, they were fire and ice. I did like this routine. I think it wasn't perfect, and we've spoken about that on the main podcast with my Evas. Obviously, the focus was all about the headbanger. I think had they have not had the headbanger in it, this routine would have been almost perfect, because it was a real firecracker. But obviously, when he came out, he tripped himself up. His head was completely gone. All
Yeah.
he was thinking about was the.
Yeah, it was just too early. It was too early. And I think, again, you and Matt Evers discussed it brilliantly. So if you haven't had a listen, make sure you go and catch I don't even know what week we're on, but it's obviously you can find all the podcasts wherever you find your podcast. It's week 5. Was this week 5? So week
I think
6
so.
is 80s weeks. I have to catch up how many weeks there are. But anyways, make sure you go and catch the main podcast there, because it was a really, really interesting. You had some really good constructive criticism, not criticism, I don't want to say, but you discussed, and there was a lot of interesting parts about choreography and about creatives and about these things too, the tricks and everything. So I agree with this routine. I thought it was very, 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 very hot, and I was there for it. But unfortunately, maybe this routine would have been even better a few weeks further down the line.
So her look this week was interesting. I mean, obviously she's got incredible skin. We're not even going to go there because her skin is like butter. It's so smooth. But what I found interesting this week was they gave her a bit of a lighter look. It was dewy and it was glowing. That's nice. But I feel like she could have had a stronger eyebrow. What do you think?
Yeah, no, interesting. Maybe there was with everything going on, they kind of went for a more nude look for her, like you said. Even obviously it's shimmery, it's beautiful, she looks great, but like you said, it's not a lot of color, so it's on purpose, kind of like a nude, a bare look. Even the eyeshadow, like you said, the eyebrows aren't highlighted. It's a kind of the eyeshadow is really. I don't want to say pale because obviously lots of colors in there. They have a glitter on on the inseam, and then obviously like a pale. I would almost say like a gray that kind of does a very pale smoky eye. But yeah, it was an interesting choice. But again, maybe just because she's had um, stronger eye makeup again, just to change it up and not take away too much from the costume and all the other screens and stuff. And obviously, she had beautiful, gorgeous curls, and the hair was quite big and a statement piece in itself. So maybe she didn't need all the makeup. Or a stronger eye, I should say, stronger makeup, stronger colors. It was very, I mean, I got Beyonce vibes here too. It was just really, again, very hot couple. I think we say this every week, so we're like repeating ourselves. But yeah, it was an interesting choice. But again, Marcus is very, very, very good, one of the best in the business of this. So trust him completely.
So I thought it was interesting because I think, Vanessa, she could wear a plastic bag and just be hot, hot, hot. And this week, I think, looked really great. I love the orange on her. I love the bronzy colors, these metallics, these like flaming shapes, and these flaming colors that they've highlighted with her. I think she could have had a stronger look on her makeup, maybe to just bring that all together. That's only my personal opinion. I'm a big fan of like really strong makeup, so probably in this
Yeah.
day and age, it's probably more fashionable to have a nude look. And so, I mean, she still looks absolutely stunning. So it's just my personal preference. But then what do we think to Dan's look here? What are we getting from that?
Well, I do have to say with Dan, I don't feel like he's been again, gorgeous man, so nothing he doesn't have to. Again, he would look good with a paper bag over his head. But they kind of he looks the same. I would like to see a different look from him now. All the weeks, even when he was James Bond, obviously he looks like he doesn't have to, but he hasn't had, a different hairpiece in, he hasn't had any accessories, he just kind of looks like Dan every week. And I think
Yeah.
that could again, it would be an interesting thing to see if they kind of change that up as well. And again, he's had the pants and the shirts, and he's, but kind of similar. Not similar. I don't want to say that. Obviously, if we actually put his picture back to back, but your general now that it's been 5 weeks, when I think about back, I can't remember. He wasn't, in a bear suit like we've seen Sam be in, and obviously even Anton's had quite a lot of contrasting looks with being, Wolverine and then being Ricky Martin and being everything in between, kind of. So, yeah, would be fun to see it maybe changed up a little bit.
Yeah, I think definitely Dan could now handle a stronger character. Maybe at the start of the journey, he wasn't fully embracing that side of of the performances. I think obviously the very first week we saw him, he looked stunning. He had the or the sort of the tight trousers and the long kind of like almost courtesan type jacket with the big ruffles, and he looked really smart. I mean, honestly, he looked like an absolute heartthrob. But since then, it's been quite tame, I think. And I'm not sure if that's his personal choice or if it's just been that the creatives have called to that. But I do feel like this was Lionheart, and this was always going to be a big piece for them because it was planned that they were going to do the headbanger. And I do feel that this could have been a stronger look, maybe a more dynamic look. I think it could have been a little bit more edgy, a little bit more raw. And what we're seeing here is just him in a black t-shirt with an overshirt, and very and very long pants that actually fitted him. So that's good.
Yeah,
That's
Matt would be
all.
happy. A very long pant and a slimmer pant too. No, I don't know. I'm being obviously it's not it's not character week, but a bit of a hair like a lion mane would have been cool. Done in a subtle way. Not taking away from his handsomeness, obviously, but still, like, I don't know. That's just us being, but maybe next week, with it being 80s week, we're probably going to see, I bet you, a lot of really, really fun and strong looks. So I'm really excited because maybe that's why this week they kind of went with more of the earthy colors, like the orangey, the dewy looks. Because I think next week we're going to be seeing something quite different.
Well, I am banking on it because honestly, 80s week is
Yeah.
one of my favorite weeks. Oh, there's my face. Hello.
Oh, hello.
So for you, those of you at home who aren't watching, and I don't really think there's much point in just listening to the show, you do need to watch because we do show all of the pictures of all of the competitors that competed last week, and then we do speak about their looks. If you are just listening along, you might be lost on you. But Alex and I decided this week that we would wear masks, which I think was a fantastic idea. Masquerade, carnival, obviously very romantic. That whole mystery about it when you think about Halloween. Sorry, Valentine's. I looked like I was in Halloween.
Well, you do wear masks for Halloween as well, but obviously,
Yes, we do. Halloween.
Valentine's can be a bit of that too, a little bit of dress up and a little bit of mysteriousness.
But I've just taken my mask off because I'm going to show you guys how to wear a false eyelash. Here, I don't know if you can see
Yay!
this is well used. You can see that there's glue on that already because I've worn this one before. And I do tend to recycle my eyelashes. I don't just wear them once and then throw them away. I think the more you wear them, the better they fit your eye shape, if I'm honest. Now, this is a bit of a half lash. It isn't a full lash, but I've got quite small eyes. And so sometimes I just like to highlight the outer edge. So I am going to attempt. I had to bring a mirror this week, so I've got got a really strong
I
mirror because in the past I've done it in the camera and I can't see what I'm doing. So first things first, I'm going to put my glue onto my eyelash. Now, I think it's really important to preload your eyelash. I know there's a lot of glues out there, and if you do have sensitive skin, it is best that you try these before you big night out and before you attempt to put your lashes on. Do have a little try to make sure you don't end up with puffy eyes or a reaction or anything like that. And especially if it's your first time wearing lashes, you might put it in the wrong place and end up with a sticky eye. Now, lashes are a bit of a bone of contention. I know that a lot of people at the moment, they are getting these sort of semi-permanent ones where you have them attached to your lid for weeks at a time. I personally, you couldn't, well, you probably could pay me enough, but I'd really rather not do that. What about you, Alex?
No, I agree. I love a lash. I love it. I feel like I wouldn't do my show makeup without a lash because I think it really, for me, for my eyes, it really opens them up. I know that's again a preference, but I couldn't have like the lashes. That's because I rub with that. You have to sleep. I think like a geisha on the back of your head, and you can't rub your eyes, and you have to. There's so many things you have to be careful of, and I like doing this. And when I wake up in the morning and I sleep in my pillow, and they would be like two lashes or two like strands of lash left after like an hour would look horrendous. So but again, it is great. I think it does so much for you. And again, there's so many things on the market now too with the I think they have one that has the eyeliner that's kind of like metallic or not metallic, magnetic or something, and then the lash sticks. I haven't tried these because I'm kind of an old-fashioned girl, so I do it your way too, Frankie, with the glue,
So
which is
I
good.
haven't
That's my
tried,
job, yeah, to let it
yeah, I
dry.
haven't tried the Yeah, I haven't tried the magnetic ones either. But I have seen them. I'm interested. Again, I'm like you. I just think keep it simple. I don't know if I want metallic magnetic strips on my eyelids. I'm not sure how easy or hard that is to get off. But there are now black glues that you can buy that are almost like an eyeliner with an eyeliner brush, so you can just draw the lash line like a liquid liner onto your top lid. And some people find that easier because then they just stick the lash onto that, not even necessarily the magnetic ones, but just a glue that you can draw on, and then you know that it's going to be in the right place. A lot of people find it difficult to place their lashes, so I'm going to attempt to do that now. I'm going to come a little bit closer and just show you here. So I've got a black eyeliner on anyway, it isn't sticky, and I've preloaded my lash and I'm just letting that dry as we've been chatting. But what I like to do really is I like to put my lash kind of just past the center of my lid, so round about here. Now, if I had a longer lash, and sometimes I do wear a fuller lash, you would start obviously a little bit further in, but I don't like them to be too close to the corners of mine. Maybe you're different, Alex, but I don't like this to be too close to the corner of mine because sometimes when you're blinking, it can make you really itchy. And if you've got a long night, or if you're out having a little bit of a drink, or if you're partying, that can get really annoying towards the end of the night. So I like to start mine round about here. So just past the center of my eye. So if that's the center of my eyelid, I like to start mine just inside of that. So I'm going to go ahead and place this lash. Maybe you can take over, Alex, and explain what I'm
Yeah, I was
doing.
just gonna say I can talk a little bit so you don't have to talk whilst doing that. No, I'm the same as you. I think again, different eyes, different techniques, different preferences. But I also find if I put them too close to the corner of my eye, it makes my eye water, and then what happens is the lash keeps lifting. So I also prefer starting a bit further out. And again, for my eyes, it helps just elongate and get a bit more of that cat look. But again, if you have more, I think, rounder eyes or bigger eyes even, then obviously, you can wear much fuller lash. And, I have done as well. If you want to go out for the night, I kind of like a half lash or a smaller one. When I started off in shows, I was definitely wearing, the biggest MAC lash there was with the bigger. But again, I feel like I've just throughout the years realized that they don't really suit my face as well as smaller ones do because of just my eye shape and the space. But there, you
So
popped
I've
it
got
on.
So I've got this place now. As you can see, I've used the spine of the lash and just followed along my eyelid, the bottom of my eyelid. But what I tend to do is right at the corner here, instead of following my eyelid as it goes down, I tend to put the end of the eyelash about a millimeter or two above the lash line. So I start off following the lash line, and as I get to the end, I will just take that up a little bit. Nobody wants to have a downward looking eye. And if you bring your lash line down with your eyelid, you'll tend to look a bit like this. By the end of the night, you can look a bit droopy. So I tend to just stick mine up a little bit higher, and then before it dries, I will continue to brush upwards. Now, some people use mascara for this to brush the lash upwards. I don't tend to bother because I don't really like it. It feels sticky, but everybody's different. And then I'll just keep brushing it up so that at the end of the day, when everything's dried off, my lash isn't pointing down, my lash is pointing upwards.
Ooh, look at that. So much with the lash, a big fan. And obviously, they have the individual ones too. If people just want to start off and put a few, you start at the end and just elongate there and stuff if you're not ready for quite the half lash or the full lash. But I really think it's a great enhancer to any look.
Now, I will say there isn't really much point wearing a lash unless you're going to wear eyeliner with it. I feel like if you just stick a lash onto an unlined lid, even if you've got a lot of shadow on, you can see tonight I've got a lot of red, I've got a cut crease, I've got it all going on tonight. But the most important thing for me is to have this black eyeliner, because then it just creates a nice base for the lash. And if there's any gaps, you won't notice it as much. Whereas if you were just put that onto an unlined lid with just your eyeshadow, I feel like it can just feel like the eyelash is floating above your natural eyeline. So make
Yeah.
sure that you connect everything with a nice black, brown, blue, red, whatever, but a nice, strong eyeliner there before you put your lash on. And like I said, I just keep pushing them up like that, and then that's good to go. Now I could wear that literally all night. I could probably wear that for 8 to 10 hours, wouldn't even move.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for that. And like I said, it's just for me, I love a lash. If you haven't tried one, give it a go. It's not hard. There's lots of easy things on the market. You don't have to make it too complicated. Obviously, there's complicated out things out there as well. If you want to give the magnetic liner lash a go, or who knows, maybe you'll find it easier. But anyways, just give it a try because it's really fun to play with, and different lashes too. Make sure you try all the different shapes and sizes to see what suits your eye.
And some people will use a tweezer. They'll hold the lash with a tweezer. I don't need to because I've been doing this for years and years. But some people will use a tweezer to place their lash. That always makes me a bit nervous in case you poke yourself in the eye with a tweezer. So I'm not recommending it. But some people do find they have more precision by using a tweezer. So that's entirely up to you. Again, it's something you need to practice before your big night out. And you can put lashes like this on and literally just take them straight off because the glue hasn't dried. So that's me just removing the lash. Now, I don't recommend you just rip them off like that at the end of the night if you've had them on for 8 hours. What I tend to do is get a Q-tip or a cotton bud and just a wet one. I just tend to run it under a bit of water and then just run that along the top of my lash. That loosens it and it should pop straight off.
Yeah. And that's why I think using the liner underneath as well is great because it kind of then you're not putting the glue exactly on your own eyelid. It has like that little space in between. And again, I feel like sometimes if I not messed up, but if the eyeline isn't perfect, when I put or eyelash isn't perfect on top of the eyeline, you can fill that in afterwards too and just top off. Because I think with an eyelash, I can wear a much heavier liner than I would do if I don't have an eyelash on. Just for me,
Yeah. Yeah,
personal.
they really do. They really do frame your eye and they really help to open that eye up. So I definitely recommend it. If you're having a big night out, if you're going to a wedding, I think it is worth the extra effort just to practice. And don't forget, like Alex and I, we've been doing these looks since we were 15 years old, 16 years old. We've been practicing putting lashes on. I mean, I wore lashes probably every day of my life for 12 years when I was touring with shows. So it's something that we've had a lot of practice at, and it's not something you're going to get overnight. So do make sure that you give yourself, just a couple of chances to practice. And like I said, once you put it on, if you've got an eyeliner on, on, it's not directly in contact with your skin that way, or there's a little
Yeah.
bit of protection, so you can just take it off straight away if you're just practicing, and eventually you'll get used to it. Do not recommend ever sleeping in your eyelashes. Always take them off before you go to bed at night, no matter how drunk you are, ladies. Get those, or gentlemen, take those lashes off.
That's a good tip of the trade. You made me giggle, so my mask's moving. But yeah,
Well,
thank you guys so much. And thank you, Frankie, gorgeous co-host as ever. And yeah, make sure you catch all the episodes this week as well. It's out there. I'm really excited to listen to the Lila and Lewis podcast as well. And obviously want to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day from both of us.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Icebreakers Lookbook. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that bell so that you are notified every time a new Icebreakers Lookbook comes out. And for now, I'm going to say goodnight from Alexandra Schauman and myself, and we will see you next week in the fabulous 80s.